asked what tomorrow looks like. We were just looking at the forecast again. There's been no determination for tomorrow. The forecast in Columbia is not good for baseball. Queens College coming down from Charlotte. At least they're scheduled to appear. At this point, the game is still on for tomorrow. They're playing today, certainly. I don't want to confuse anybody. They will play today up in Rock Hill.
Yes.
So if you are maybe headed up, have fun. And if you are in that area, because some of you can get us up in that area on the air, even in addition to the app. Have fun. Enjoy the game. And we'll see what happens. Do we know if anybody won the over-under contest on Ethan Petrie's home runs this weekend?
It would have been a close under. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know who would have won, but I know if you chose under, then you gave yourself a chance.
He almost had a weekend cycle, but I think he missed the single.
Ironically enough, the thing that should be the easiest one to get.
But that dinger he hit on Friday, that was a shot, man. That's a long.
And they needed it too on Friday. They needed it.
Yeah, Friday was an interesting day. You could see. I give the Sacred Heart starter. I forget his name. He pitched pretty well, man. I think that's clearly their number one guy, and you know, he did nice. I thought SQ got out of that huge jam early. And then Saturday and Sunday, I think more than anything, maybe the pitching for Sacred Heart just took a real deep dive downward. South Carolina pitching was strong. Coach Maneri got a lot of guys in, so had a run rule game on Saturday. So a nice start, a series you should expect to sweep. I know I sometimes say I never expect to sweep a series. There are exceptions.
This is one of those.
Yeah.
If you want to be a contending team in the SEC, you should sweep Sacred Heart.
You should.
And you should do what the pitching staff did, and that's have a strikeout walk ratio of 45-4.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's pretty good. I like that. That's encouraging. I mean, that's a stat I wanted to see at the end of the series.
I want to say, did SQ have like 10 in 5 innings or something? Was that?
I think 9.
9 in 5 innings?
Actually, I think all 3 starters struck out 9.
Okay. Yeah, they did all right with that.
That's consistent. So. You strike out, now you get it. Your starters strike out 9, each outing.
Yeah.
Don't expect it each outing because some days are diamonds, some days are stones. You will have bad games, but
wow, that's deep.
Yeah. Thanks, John Denver.
Yeah.
Sage wisdom.
Meanwhile, basketball, not a good weekend. South Carolina men, as expected, fell to Florida. Were never really in that game. And unfortunately, Coach Don Staley's team was never really in the game against Connecticut. Huskies struck early and often, hitting from outside very well, a lot of assisted buckets and just moving the ball effectively. And South Carolina just never really had an answer for any of it. And Dawn, I was just talking to the guys, Elijah, I'll repeat it though, and I'm paraphrasing Dawn from her post game. First she said from a basketball perspective, transition defense just really let them down. And secondly, she felt like maybe, again, she didn't say it, but maybe there was something else at work there, I don't think anything nefarious, but just something, and let's face it, sometimes in life, when you get popped in the mouth, sometimes you want to fight back and sometimes you kind of want to curl up. And maybe that's what South Carolina did, is just curl up a little bit and just say, this is not fun, and I don't want to do this anymore. And
there's a look of shell shock.
Yeah, Connecticut sensed that and took full advantage. South Carolina is not 29 points worse than Connecticut, in my estimation, but they were on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I'd see this team get run out of their own building the way they did.
Right.
31-12 was the discrepancy in transition points on Sunday afternoon. 31-12.
Well,
and grabbed only 15% of your missed shots when you're usually grabbing about 33%.
Yeah, that was another one,
too. So the two things that you always do better than everybody you play, even when the three-point shots don't fall, because they're not always going to fall, right? It's not always going to look like it did in the first half against Florida, where everything you shot went in, right? It's not always going to look like that. But this team has a floor, usually, where they rebound the ball really well and get second-chance points, and they're just faster and more athletic and better than you in transition, and they kill you that way. Two things that you do best, that and play defense. And you got outdone in all three of those things. And in that gym where they have clubbed everyone they've played.
71 straight.
It's incredibly surprising.
2 streaks in a week's time that ended. And both, I think, to the point you just made indirectly, have a lot to do with the opposing coach knowing where you could exploit some South Carolina weaknesses and take advantage. We go back to the Texas game in Austin, and to your point about rebounding, Vic Schaefer, and I'm again paraphrasing. South Carolina's defense was going to have us miss shots. We needed to be in a position to get the ball back and then make that second chance count. And Texas did a very good job of that.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, Connecticut, who I think is a much quicker team, but has some good big play, but I think a quicker team than Texas, did some of the same things. They just did it in a different way. But to your point, hey, don't let South Carolina get the misses,
Yeah.
And
then when you get that rebound, get it out in transition.
And get it out
fast.
and go. Boom. And they did.
Don't let South Carolina's defense set up because they smother you.
They had a plan, and it worked for them. And it felt like South Carolina just did not have an answer. As it stands right now, it's not a tremendously damaging loss. If you've seen the latest bracketology, South Carolina's still a 1, but now you may look at South Carolina as sort of the 4th one, and they would have to play.
Which is kind of ridiculous to me.
Well,
I disagree with Charlie Cream immensely. I know the recency bias of watching them get clubbed at home.
Look,
it's one thing, but
he's got to do his job, and it's yes. Content for now. Look, South Carolina finish out the regular season. I say this like, hey, just go win the SEC tournament. That's all you got to do. It much easier said than done. But if those things happen, accordingly, then South Carolina should see a seeding that gets them closer to home once they play in Columbia, and then take it from there. I don't know. Texas beat LSU the other day, so what you were hoping for as a Carolina fan did not happen. And there's two ways to look at it. If you're a fan, and most of you are, at least of Carolina that are listening, then you're a little bummed out. If you're a neutral and you just love the sport and the growth of the sport and those kinds of things, I got to tell you, this is fantastic.
This is great.
Yeah.
This is as good a news you could get is to see this type of parity that you have in the sport right now.
So we'll see. Carolina, that's one that's going to sting a little bit.
Oh, sir. I mean, it's because it's an embarrassing loss. You lose by 29 in any game. It's embarrassing. It's more embarrassing when it happens at home against a program that you are trying to strive to be.
Yeah, and they needed to get it back a little bit, and UConn did. We got a lot more to do in a short amount of time, and we'll continue the post-game show after this. 16 minutes after 3 o'clock here on a Tuesday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you as we get ready for Carolina baseball. Stuart and Derek on the call. Actually, Derek isn't on the call today. Derek is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
That's right.
So never mind.
There's a basketball game tonight, too.
And I should know who is doing the call today, and I don't know if I have that in front of me. I don't. But I promise you this. Someone will be calling the game today with Stuart.
Harry Carey?
No.
Dang.
No, not Harry. Although you could probably AI Harry these days.
I would rather just get Will Ferrell to be Harry Carey.
That'd be good. Did you, you were out of town, so have you seen any of the SNL 50, speaking of Will Ferrell?
Unfortunately, I've not seen it yet.
Okay.
I've seen some clips.
Yeah.
But I have not been able to go back and watch the whole thing in its entirety.
I enjoyed it. I was looking forward to it. And, obviously completely live, lots of retrospective stuff. I think sometimes when they, one of the things, it's hard to show like just clips of comedy,
Right.
and make it like you have to remember that you've seen it and like, oh, that was funny. Oh, that was funny. Like when they do the Aykroyd and Steve Martin, like the wild and crazy guy, like those brothers, it's like, ha, 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 ha. But like you need to see the skits,
Yes.
They did some original skits. Eddie Murphy was pretty funny. I thought Weekend Update was solid. I don't want to spoil, so I won't say too much. Terrific cameo appearance on Weekend Update.
Ooh.
So you need to.
I love a cameo update. Cameo appearance on Weekend Update.
Need to see that.
Love a good surprise.
But very good guest presenter, I guess you could say, on Update. So that was good. The music was great. It was a good show.
About the music during the break, and I was like, that sounded that's right down my alley.
Miley Cyrus, who a lot of people may pan, but actually she can sing, man. And Miley Cyrus and Brittany Howard of Alabama Shakes.
Oh, love Brittany Howard.
Did Nothing Compares to You. So, as I was saying, a nod, R.I.P. both. And that was cool. Paul McCartney was there. It was good, man. It was cool. Lil Wayne and the Roots was great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was.
That would make High School me nostalgic.
It was good, man. It was good. Paul McCartney kind of closed out the show, and it's all right. It was all right. So it's fun. And if you're a fan, you like it, and if you're not, then you probably just won't watch it.
Weekend well spent. Nice.
Yeah, sure. That's good. In the meantime, speaking of Carolina basketball, let's get into a little bit of that. We've talked about the women's team already. Guys, tonight. By the way, thank you, Brad. Brad Muller just texted. Kate Crenshaw, thank you. I should have known that.
Yeah, thanks for saving Jay.
Thank you, Brad.
Now we can get him to stop sweating in here.
Well, I probably shouldn't have worn this sweatshirt. Anyway.
Mistake number one.
Best chance to win in their remaining games?
Yep. There's clearly a bottom tier in the SEC, and LSU and South Carolina are firmly in that tier. Now, LSU got a big win against Oklahoma over the weekend, so they picked up SEC win number 2.
Yeah.
But LSU is very vulnerable, clearly, and they have shown a tendency to lose leads late in games. They should have beaten Ole Miss at home a couple weeks ago, and they completely gagged that one away in epic fashion. So this is really, in terms of basketball matchup, this is the worst team that you have on the schedule. This is the most winnable game on your SEC slate. I think I would rank Arkansas and Texas as the second closest, but Arkansas and Texas are actually playing good basketball. Texas just got done beating Kentucky at home.
Yeah, that was a nice win.
And Arkansas has picked up some nice wins in SEC play, and they're squarely on the bubble, so they have a lot to lose when they come to Columbia. Texas, too. Texas win against Kentucky gave them a little bit of margin for error, but when they come to Columbia, they're teams those are two teams that cannot afford to lose to you. So I think they'll be on their best basketball behavior, but tonight is your golden opportunity.
When you look at this team, we talked last week, you and I, that after 18 minutes, I think it was, at Rupp, that we might, in sort of the second half of the conference slate, begin to see more of the Cam Scott experiment. And then I think it was only 5 minutes the other night, and he didn't take a shot.
Yeah, I'm looking at 4 right now. Looking at 4 with one missed three-pointer.
Okay, so
and a defensive rebound.
Does that? I'm not saying, hey, if you just play Cam Scott, you're going to win games. That's not it. But again, at some point, does this have to become as much about what your future looks like as what your present is?
Certainly. I mean, because your present is, I hate to be overly defeatist. I mean, it's non-existent. Like you're playing for dignity and pride. You're 0-12 in the SEC. You're playing a game tonight in which the biggest thing on the line is avoiding going winless in conference play, which is a blow to a program. And those seasons are embarrassing. Not everybody is Missouri and bounces back the next year. And it also took a lot of work during the offseason to bounce back and have the season Missouri is having after going winless. Going winless in SEC play ended Bryce Drew's tenure at Vanderbilt, and that set them back for an entire half decade because they made the wrong hire after that, and they became an absolute shell of themselves as a program. It took a long time to get back. Winless seasons in conference play are damaging. At this point in time, I think it's just as much evaluation right now to see who you need to bring back, who you want to bring back. I mean, here's another thing, too. Like, how would you know if you want to bring Cam back or not if you don't see him in a lot of action unless you've already made up your mind? That's another thing, too. Have they already made up their mind as to what the future holds between player and team?
All right, let me give you a C for that as well, and not your grade, but an option C. Who wants to come back?
Yeah. I mean, you got to start having these discussions right now. I know that you might get a different answer now than, on March 14th or whatever, when I guess maybe March 20th, I think is closer to the date that the portal opens for non-tournament teams. But yeah, I would go ahead and start getting an idea of what the team's going to look like next year. I mean, don't expect Colin Murray-Boyles back. Jamari's not going to have any eligibility. Jacoby's not going to have any eligibility. Nick Pringle won't have any eligibility. So really, you're looking at Zach Davis, Morris Ugasuk, Arden Conyers, Jordan Butler, Cam Scott. And then if you want to throw in Austin Hero there too, since he did log a single minute against Florida. Those are the guys that played. I don't know if you're going to be able to get Miles Stute a red shirt. I doubt it because he did play for the entire non-conference schedule and a couple of conference games. But
yeah, you can't. You won't get a medical exemption.
Yeah,
no,
I don't think they'll be able to get the medical exemption because he's just played in too many games this year, which is very unfortunate. So really, if that's the group you're running it back with, you still have a lot of roster spots to have to fill. I think I just named 4 or 5 players.
Yeah,
I mean you're going to have to really bust tail to get players in the transfer portal. You have a solid recruiting class. Not elite, but a solid one. But you're going to have to really do some hard evaluating on who you have right now that's coming back and what you need to address in the transfer portal. And that thing you need to address in the transfer portal is a whole lot of everything.
9 o'clock tip time tonight. So a late one, 8:30 airtime. We'll have it for you here with Derek and Judge Manning on the call. Getting closer to Carolina baseball. This is the postgame show. Always love telling you about our good friends at Integrated Media. Michael Geddes, the co-owner of Integrated, sent me a video yesterday, and it was of him crawling under someone's house to get ready to do an install. And I thought back to times when I have had to go into my crawl space, but I don't do it often.
It's scary down there.
But they do. And this is the attention to detail to make sure everything is done right. That's what you're paying for with Integrated Media. You can get equipment at a lot of places, but there's only one place to get the level of service and expertise and personal touch that Integrated Media delivers. And that's with Integrated Media. So when it comes to home theater, home security, and so much more, 803-948-8327. One room, whole house, indoors, outdoors, Wi-Fi that works everywhere. The best in home theater. Integrated Media. Welcome back in. Technically, the final few minutes of today's program as we get ready for Carolina baseball. Gamecocks up in Rock Hill taking on Winthrop. We'll have it for you here in just a little bit.
Long show.
Still scheduled to play tomorrow. So no decisions have been made yet on tomorrow. Again, the forecast for Columbia does not look good. But you know what? On Friday, we were all pretty concerned about what Sunday looked like, and then they played, and it was fine. Well, not fine, but they played.
They got a game in.
They played. And so maybe, keep your fingers crossed. I will say that in speaking with folks down there, it said they had two very different forecasts. And I texted back and I said, well, just pick the good one.
And be optimistic. Pick the good one.
Just do that one.
When I presented two conflicting news things, I'm like, whichever one I like best, I will believe.
Well, yeah. And that's the right way to do it.
That's the only way to do it.
Sure. Yeah, whatever you want to hear is what the news is.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't worry about the facts.
But I want to
what
hear.
do you want to hear?
Yes.
That's
the New Orleans Saints are going to win the Super Bowl.
That's today's news cycle. But hey, to each their own. Speaking of news, the Southeastern Conference and Big Ten this week are meeting in New Orleans ahead of full college football playoff meetings in just a few days' time. This has heads spinning and bursting around ACC and Big 12 land. I even saw on Twitter today that there are some who basically think this is collusion. And again, it's not, because they're open about it and nothing is going to come of it in any definitive way. So it's not collusion. But the Big Ten and Southeastern Conference have already taken steps that others have agreed to, perhaps somewhat unwillingly, Elijah Campbell, but nevertheless have agreed to, that will see the Southeastern Conference and Big Ten take more direct control of the new CFP, not this coming season, but in 26. They've already carved out more of the money for themselves, which I thought was
shocker,
savvy. But what do we expect out of these things? And again, as a subset of conversation, there is the possibility of the Southeastern Conference and Big Ten coming together for some type of football weekend, which I think would be fantastic.
That would be a positive result of this meeting.
But I did read this morning that, believe it or not, there is a difference of opinion between the two conferences, at least to some degree, and it's hard to figure out exactly how wide the gap is between them when it comes to automatic qualifiers. That the Big Ten is leaning more towards, we'd like to have 4, and we think you guys should also have 4. Whereas the Southeastern Conference is a little bit more of, let's just let the best teams get in. And I think it's sometimes because the SEC might be, especially if it goes to 14 or 16, hey, we might get 5 or 6. I don't want to just hold us to 4 to where we have slots that are pre-allocated.
Yeah.
So that to me
would be foolish.
That to me was a little bit interesting.
And it's a bad look if you do that too.
Well, yeah, and
because
I think
then you're the crybaby that is refusing to quit if you don't get your way.
Yeah,
you only got 3 in, and then
if there were 12, look, I do not believe this thing stays at 12. It might not even stay at 12 this year. They actually still have an opportunity apparently to go to 14 or more this season. I don't think they will. I'm not so sure they should. I think if they're going to change anything, I know we've talked about this probably. Change the seeding, and how that formula, but maybe leave it at 12
change
this year.
The bye weeks, yeah. 12 is fine.
And then interestingly, perhaps it might be that the Southeastern Conference is a little bit more beholden to the bowl sites relative to the Big Ten. And I know Big Ten folk will say, well, yeah, it's because you don't want to play in the snow. Now, again, y'all don't either, but whatever.
No one wants to play.
Again, TV would love it, but otherwise, no.
It makes for a great aesthetic.
Yeah. So I'll be curious to see exactly how much change is really put forth. And again, they won't make any changes themselves because anything that changes for the coming season must be unanimous with all parties involved. So I just don't think there'll be much right now. But I did find the automatic qualification slots to be an interesting story. And I don't know if I would have thought that one over another would have wanted it. But I was like, oh, Big Ten wants it more than the SEC does.
Because the Big Ten's not going to be as good as it was this year at the top every year. Because it normally isn't. The Big Ten's normally really good, but they usually have 3 really good teams and a very clear division between the first and second tier.
Yeah, and it feels like that third team kind of rotates. I mean, I guess these days you've got Ohio State and Penn State, with all due respect to Michigan, but Michigan hasn't always been up there.
Non-Harbaugh years, they have not been there in recent memory.
And Wisconsin's been good, and maybe Bielema has a good team. Again, it's weird to say, but Southern California is now a Big Ten school, and they need to get their act together. Oregon, of course, did quite well in their first season in. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, like I said, what comes out of it, if anything. To me, the biggest thing is the SEC. Are you going to play 9 games? And if not, and you're mandating this one, non-con game already with a P4 school, would you keep that mandate and play a Big Ten school?
Or just scrap the mandate and make everybody play a Big Ten school?
Well, but if you do that, again, are there going to be schools that say there's a disadvantage? South Carolina, Florida, Kentucky, Georgia. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Georgia might go.
Yeah. Well, and here at this point,
Tech is not a disadvantage.
And at this point, too, let's be honest with ourselves. You're in the SEC. How much disadvantage do you really have?
Right.
You have more advantages than every team in the bleeping sport.
Right.
You get more money than every team in the bleeping sport. At some point, you can't cry disadvantage when you already have a lot of advantages.
I think, listen, again, I'm all for it. I am all for South Carolina. Obviously, South Carolina and Clemson are going to continue to play one another. And before anybody says, yeah, it's because there's a law. No, there's not a law. There's not a law, but they'll continue to play each other.
A social law.
Yes, that's right.
An unspoken social agreement.
But I would be all for South Carolina and then playing a game against whomever, I mean, and it's not going to be, South Carolina's not going to get Ohio State or Penn State. South Carolina's going to get a Wisconsin, a Purdue, a Minnesota, something like that. And you know what would be great? Like, go play UCLA or something, man.
Hey, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Let's go play in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, and go cruiting in Southern California. Even if you get only 1 or 2, it's worth it. All right, that's it for us on this Tuesday afternoon.
Long show, I'm tired.
Good to see you. Enjoy Carolina baseball, and we'll do it all again tomorrow. So long.
Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game, WNKT Eastover, Columbia, a Cumulus media station
of the Gamecock Sports Network.
It's a place that's filled with champions and people that want to do things the right way.
Swing and a miss through the fastball right by Leneve. Tyler Pitzer through 2 perfect innings.
Make a big pitch, get a big hit, make a big play.
Driven deep to left field, chasing it is Shellnut. He won't get to it. It's out of here. Talmadge, LeCroy.
You got to be a champion every day.
1-0 pitch, driven to center. Lovich goes back. It's gone! And we are tied. Ethan Petrie sends it out of here to center field.
This is the On Deck Show. Starting lineups, a preview of today's game, and a visit with head coach Paul Maneri are all ahead as we get you ready for South Carolina baseball.
It is a beautiful day for baseball, so welcome you to Rock Hill, South Carolina, and Founders Field at Winthrop University. Hello, everyone. Kay Crenshaw here with you on the Gamecock Sports Network from Learfield, standing in for Derek Scott this afternoon. Joined alongside my partner, Stuart Lake, and Coach, a pair of 3-0 teams on tap for this afternoon.
Yeah, exciting. 2 new head coaches, at least to the programs that they're at. 2 guys we've been around a lot, but just a lot of excitement. New things going on here at Winthrop, 3-0, as you said, so coming in on the first midweek game of the year. Exciting to see this type of matchup.